Phil Grande. Take advantage of this special offer for a free 10-day trial at philsgang.com.
Try it. 10 days free.
That's philsgang.com.
philsgang.com.
When you listen to the advice of Phil Grande at philsgang.com, you'll find investing in the stock market makes sense with the right guidance.
People keep saying to me, boy, things are hard. Things are tough. Boy, the market's really screwed up. And I don't agree with them. For us here at Phil's Gang, we make it so it's simple. It doesn't matter if the market's bad or good. We consistently do well because we make it simple. And just like for my listeners on the radio or on the internet or my podcast, we make it simple. We try to break it down so you really understand why the market is going up or why there's continued inflation or why the bank rates are going up. So you understand. Especially yields. The most important thing to understand how yields work. Just what we do. We work hard at it.
Trusted advice, easy to understand strategies that will make you a better investor. Get all the details at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Why are investors listening to Phil Grande of philsgang.com?
You know why people listen to my show? Because I make it simple. When you talk about the stock market, they make it so complicated. I make it easy to understand. For the average investor, the Main Street investor, most of the time, these guys, it's like they're talking to each other. We talk directly to you and we listen to you.
Invest better with the sound advice of Phil Grande at philsgang.com. As the new year approaches, make a resolution to challenge yourself to become the best investor you can be. Phil Grande can take your trading to a whole new level. Innovative stock market investing tools and the experience of over 50 years combined to give you the edge in controlling your financial future. As a Phil's Gang member, you're taught the essential strategies of investing using stock charts, training videos, and seminars. It's information Wall Street doesn't want you to know. Learn more at philsgang.com. philsgang.com. Want the truth when investing in the stock market? Here's how.
Hi, I'm Phil Grande at philsgang.com. Listen to my radio show every day because that's where you're going to get the truth. You're not going to get the truth listening to these dopes on Fake Business News Network. The other day, Kramer said, don't listen to the banks. They're giving you wrong information. When he told you to buy Merrill Lynch, remember? And what happened? They went broke.
Get the truth at philsgang.com.
Join my gang, philsgang.com. Get the truth. And also listen to me on my podcast on YouTube and Rumble. That's philsgang.com.
You want to invest your money and grow your wealth. How do you invest intelligently? Become a Phil's Gang member and receive the training, advice, and software that will take your investing to the next level. Our team is comprised of successful investors, all with proven track records. Phil's Gang software is easy to use, painless to navigate, and tells you exactly when to buy and sell to help maximize profits. Learn about common market mistakes and how to minimize them. Phil's Gang has successfully taught tens of thousands of investors how to navigate the market with confidence. You don't need to be a seasoned investor to benefit from the Phil's Gang platform, no matter what level of investor you are. Phil's Gang strategies for investing are designed to put you on the path to success. Sign up for a 10-day free trial to see our platform in action, avoid market pitfalls, and start winning with Phil's Gang. Learn more at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. If you invest in the stock market, take a moment for this important advice.
Hi, I'm Phil Grande at philsgang.com. You've got to stop listening to the fake business news networks because they tell you what you want to hear instead of what you need to hear.
Phil Grande guides you step by step on investing.
You're going to know exactly what the tone of the market is. Do I sell? Do I not sell? Do I buy?
All you need to know is philsgang.com.
Check it out, philsgang.com, philsgang.com. Hi, I'm Phil Grande at philsgang.com. Over the years, I've successfully taught tens of thousands of investors how to navigate the market with confidence. Become a Phil's Gang member and receive the training, the advice, and the software that will take your investing to the next level. I have a team comprised of successful investors, all with proven track records, and the Phil's Gang software is easy to use, painless to navigate, and tells you exactly when to buy, when to sell, when to hold, when to run like hell, even short. Learn about common market mistakes and how to minimize them.
The stocks discussed on Phil's Gang are not in any way a recommendation or solicitation to buy, sell, or hold. If considering acting on information presented, we first recommend you seek out a competent, licensed professional for advice. Get ready for the radio show that tells you what Wall Street doesn't want you to know.
Oh, I'm a money magnet. Money's coming to me. Money sets me free. I'm a money magnet. Money's coming to me.
It's your daily dose of how to manage your money. And now it's time for Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. With your host, Phil Grande.
And welcome to Phil's Gang, my podcast and radio show that I do every Friday. Now, everyone is saying that this market, because it hasn't made a new high, can start breaking down and make some new lows. And especially with the fact that we have the tariffs. And remember, the tariffs, unfortunately, are the centerpiece of Trump's monetary policy, and it hasn't been working out. Again, he gave up on that first 1,000-point rally we had. Remember, that was because he said, I'm going to pause this thing because it wasn't working, His ratings went down to nearly -8 because people were upset because things were going to cost a lot more, especially Walmart. They're saying they have to move their prices up. So he paused it. And then, of course, after that, we got another 1,000-point rally because he's so-called made a deal, with China, which there's no deal at all. It's just a letter of intent. So I'm going to go through with you today the possibilities, what this market's going to do. Now, if you take a look at my chart, this is the S&P. And most of the time, when you see a pattern like this, where you have a sharp sell-off, and you get these rallies, and there's different names for the rally, a short covering rally, bear market rally, a short squeeze rally. But the idea is, unless you make a new high, you're going to come down and take out this low. But again, remember what's been driving this market. So I would not be a bit surprised if we make a new high and continue to go higher, because you got to go back and look at what has driven this market all these years. The biggest bubble we've ever had is because of, again, money supply right here. Look at this. So if you go back to 2008, where we had that crash, what pushed the market up with QE and all that stuff wasn't earnings, wasn't growth, it wasn't productivity. It was all, hey, let's print a boatload of money and keep on buying, treasuries, and let's get the interest rate down, the long-term interest rate down, to match the short-term interest rate, which the Fed controls and dropped to near zero. Now, if you take a look at the Fed rate, so in other words, if you go back and look at the Fed rate, look what he did here. If you go back to 2008, right here, 2009, we were at 0.15, And if you go from let's say from 2008 it's 0.15, go all the way up to 2015 at 0.12. So think about it. So from 0.8 in 2008, or say zero interest 2008, all the way to basically zero rates all the way to 2016, really, even more than that. 2017, we didn't hit 1% until 2017, so 2008 to 2017, what drove this market was zero rates, 2008 to 2017. Now let's go look at the money supply. Now the money supply Go look at the money supply from 2008 to 2017. Look at this. Look at the money supply. 2008, it was around, we'll say 8 trillion. Okay, and 2008 to 2017, let's go up here, 2017, right here. Let's see, let me bring this back again, 2017, come on. 2017, right there. So we went from, let's say, 8 trillion to 13, almost 14 trillion. So about $6 trillion is what drove the market up, with the fact that we had rates that were near zero from 2008, okay, all the way up to 2017. So that's what drove the market, cutting rates. But the reason they can't cut rates now to drive the market higher, because all those years created massive inflation, terrible inflation. And that's why they can't cut rates, because now on top of the massive inflation, you got tariffs. And the tariffs create inflation. Not good for the dollar, makes the dollar weak. Okay, and remember, tariffs are a tax on all the goods we import, like Walmart and Home Depot and all those stores. Prices go up, and especially on essentials, like our groceries and electronics and clothing and cars. So, and that hurts the middle income households the hardest. So again, remember what I'm telling you, that the only reason the market rallied is because of the increased money supply and zero rates all these years. So now the problem is this. When you take a look at the market, and here we are today, and we got a lower high, this thing should drop. But look what they've been doing as of late. They've been pushing money back into the market again. This is called increased money supply. What's that? Increased money supply is the amount of money that they print and then they shove into the banks, so the consumer confidence goes up. People are happy because they can borrow and they can go buy stuff. So you can see, look what they're doing. They started to pull the money supply back because of the inflation. Now they're pushing money back in again, and that's one of the reasons why we see the market have this rally that we're looking at here. So they don't, remember, no one cares about the economy anymore on Wall Street, okay? They could care less about the economy. They could care less about you, about me. You take Wall Street and Congress, they don't care about the economy. It's always the stock market is what they care about. Look at Pelosi, how much money she's made in the stock market. All these guys in Congress and gals are making a fortune in the stock market. So don't be a bit surprised if they decide, you know what, let's cut rates again. We don't care that Moody downgraded us because our deficits are so huge. And for years, Congress has not been addressing the deficits or the debt. So it would be nothing for them to turn around and say, yes, we understand now that we have these terrible tariffs, and tariffs is rising prices, inflation's going up, and with tariffs, we should not be cutting rates. But they may just cut rates to push the stock market back up. That's a great possibility. So you got to be prepared for that. Now, as I said, tariffs, okay, are not good. Tariffs are the centerpiece of Trump's monetary policy. Now, today, he said that he was going to increase tariffs on Apple phones. Everyone that they don't build here, they build overseas, and they bring it here, it's going to cost 25% to bring it into this country. Same thing with the EU. He's thinking about putting a 50% tariff on them. That's not good, okay? It's a hidden tax. Now, if you take and look at TLT, is a great thing. The TLT, or the bond market, tells you what is going on, what's going to happen to the stock market. If you listen to the bond market, it always tells the truth. Don't listen to these people on Wall Street. Follow the money, not the noise. Here's a great example, and it's no different. Now, this is Joe Scarborough, and I want to get into politics, but I want to make a point. Listen when Scarborough lied.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
Okay. Now, why would we be so lucky to think they don't lie to us about the economy and the stock market? They do. Listen to this.
For most households, their financial condition remains solid.
That's a bold-faced lie. Bankruptcies right now are almost at historic high. Listen to this.
I think he's better than he's ever been. Intellectually, analytically.
Now listen to this.
Despite heightened uncertainty, the economy is still in a solid position.
Yeah.
The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor...
You better clear his throat some more. So my point I'm making is they lie to us, just like these people on TV lie to us about what was going on in the White House. They're lying to us what's going on in the economy. So thank God we follow the money. So if you think about this now, the bond market, or TLT, continues to drop, okay? That means rates keep going up. Those are the long-term rates. Now, and what's happening is that we're not only are we seeing higher inflation, higher rates, because they have to fight the inflation, right? So that's why we got the higher rates. Now, and that all reduces our economic GDP growth. Look what happened in the first quarter. Our economic GDP growth was negative. Now, that causes higher deficits, higher debt, because we have to pay more for money. Because when we borrow money, countries are saying, especially now we got downgraded, hey, you are a risk. We don't know if we're going to get paid back or not. Now, they know they're going to get paid back. All we have to do is print money. But the point is that they're going to charge us more and more interest. And are you kidding me? So these, again, our dollar, all these rate cuts over the years, these zero interest rates to push the stock market up. They shouldn't have done that, but they did, because they didn't care about the economy. They only cared about Wall Street and the members of Congress. They were rich themselves. Okay, so that weakened the dollar, all those rate cuts. Now, from January to where we are today, the dollar's down almost 8%. Now, let's go to this big, beautiful tax cut bill. Trump sincerely thinks that the tax cut bill will grow the economy, okay? Now, the problem with the tax cut bill, the beautiful tax cut bill, is that Congress right now is spending $2 trillion more than it collects in taxes here in 2025. We have a deficit. When you start cutting $5 trillion in taxes, and who's it going to benefit? It's going to benefit only the high-income, wealthy earners. So by cutting their taxes by $5 trillion, giving them that tax break, that means our deficit not only going to be $2 trillion, add another $5 trillion. So that's $7 trillion. What are you, nuts? Now, so again, here's what Trump believes. Trump believes that these wealthy people, just like we were told with QE, these wealth, like by Obama, Trump believes that if you give the very, very wealthy, the tax cut, they will take that money and they'll put it into increase their business investments. They don't do that. They never have done that. Just like we heard with QE. When they went to zero rates, they said, oh, this is great. It's going to benefit the wealthy. They're going to create all kinds of jobs, opportunities, and that means the Main Street folks, you're going to get good jobs, good wages, but they never did that. Okay? What they did is took the money and put it in a pile with their other money. The same thing's going to happen this time.
Want
That
more
$5
information
trillion.
on the show? Go to philsgang.com or give them a call at 877-600-GANG. When you listen to the advice of Phil Grande at philsgang.com, you'll find investing in the stock market makes sense with the right guidance.
People keep saying to me, boy, things are hard, things are tough. Boy, the market's really screwed up. And I don't agree with them. For us here at Phil's Gang, we make it so it's simple. It doesn't matter if the market's bad or good. We consistently do well because we make it simple. And just like for my listeners on the radio or on the internet or my podcast, we make it simple. We try to break it down so you really understand why the market is going up or why there's continued inflation or why the bank rates are going up. So you understand, especially yields. The most important thing to understand how yields work. Just what we do. We work hard at it.
Trusted advice, easy to understand strategies that will make you a better investor. Get all the details at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Welcome back. Learn, invest, and make profits with Phil Grande. Simply go to philsgang.com. Now, here's Phil.
And welcome back to Phil's Gang. Join my gang. Go to philsgang.com. And for 10 days, you don't have to pay a thing. And for 10 days, we're going to show you why 90%, 80 to 90% of people, retail investors, lose money. They always do. For 50 years. Because, one, they only buy stocks. They don't know how to sell short. And they always buy on dips. And they cost average down. They don't know what they're doing. But you got to learn how to sell short. When you look at this chart right here, and you look at the S&P right here, okay, let's go back 6 months right here. That was a beautiful short. We made a lot of money shorting. So did the big institutions. This rally on the way back up, that wasn't because the economy was doing well, just the opposite. It was because the people who shorted took their profits. They have to cover their positions, and it moves the stock market up. And then the big institutions who are trying to dump their shares, they'll squeeze those who are short. So if you're sitting there and you're short, okay, say this is you, you're over here, you're short, okay? So what the institution will do, they'll come in and they'll buy a small amount of shares, and when you're shorting, now you see the price of the stock going up, you're losing money, you panic, and you start covering your shorts even more. So what happens, the stock market keeps moving higher and higher, and everybody who's short panics because, let's say you made $5,000 if you shorted from here to here. Now you only made $3,000 because the stock market's going against you. That's what they do, okay? This isn't going up because of earnings or the economy's growing or anything good. Now, the point, again, is that, as I said earlier, they can take this market and break it out to new highs and keep running it. All they have to do is increase the money supply. Remember, they don't care about the cost of groceries. They don't care about cost. Congress doesn't care. Okay? Wall Street doesn't care. There's two economies. There's one for the working class, okay? And then there's the stock market. That's for the wealthy. That's the other market. And all they're going to do is keep pushing the market up as often as they can. But they got a problem right now trying to push the market up because they can't go back to zero rates. They can't do QE right now because of all the terrible inflation that increased since 2008. And as I showed you here a moment ago, okay, what pushed the market up from 2008 to 2025, remember, is the amount of money they printed and injected into the banks, and then the banks would lend to the folks, and they would also lend to CEOs of companies so they can buy their own shares back to keep pushing up their price of their stock without having to have increased profits or increased sales. This has been one big scam, but people made a fortune. They started to pull back because of the amount of money was getting crazy. The inflation is terrible, so they started to pull back on the amount of money they're injecting, but then they turned around and they just couldn't help themselves, and they started again putting more money in the market. But the big problem they got now is right here is the rates, okay? Remember, our rates right now, they're just, the Fed rate is just under 5. But you take the 10-year Treasury, okay, it's almost 4.5. And remember, the Fed rate is the rate at which they loan to banks overnight, okay? The Fed can't drop those rates back to zero. And again, like I showed you back here, you take 2008, it was 0.12. Zero, okay? That's what it was, zero rates. And it stayed that way from 2008 all the way until it was not until 2017 did they raise rates where it was 1%. And then we had that crash in 2020 to COVID. We were at 2.4. They were trying to fight the inflation. Then they dropped rates right back to zero. And they held the rates at zero, is 0.09. Are you kidding me? 9/10? 9/10? So it's zero. And they kept it at zero from 2020 to 2021 to 2022. It was 2022 May is when they decided to start raising rates. And they kept raising rates to where we are today for quite a while. Remember, May of 2023, we were at 5%, and we stayed at 5% all the way to July 2024, October actually 2024, when we started to come off that 5%. So right now we're nearing 5%. They can't cut the rates because they say if they cut rates right now with the tariffs, it would be a disaster. Okay, to cut rates with because remember, the tariffs are just one big inflation machine. So all I'm trying to point out to you today is this, that we made money on the rally on the way, shorting on the way down. We made money on the way back up. Now, right now is where the confusion's coming in. We're not getting a good message right now, other than the bond market. Now, the bond market's telling us the stock market wants to go down, okay? The bond market tells you the truth. Not these guys on CNBC and Fox Business and all that. They're not going to tell you the truth. The bond market's telling you that the market wants to go lower. So Trump, remember, he wants the market to go much higher. and that's why he was begging for a rate cut, and he didn't get it. But so how he got the market to rally, he did a pause. How he got the market to rally another 1,000 points, because Powell wouldn't give it to him. He went and said he signed some great deal with China, which there's no deal. And so now everybody is just waiting to see what is going to happen. So the stocks that you should be in right now are the stocks that every time the market moves down, start looking for stocks like we have, what we call power stocks, or stocks that have relative strength. Look at our GEV. So the stock keeps going up as the stock market keeps going down, okay? Now remember, these tariffs are a terrible thing, okay? Because remember, the inflation they throw off. And again, there's nothing good about these tariffs. Nothing. And again, as I said, the benefit of this beautiful tax cut is going to the wealthy earners, the very, very wealthy. And the idea is that they're going to use the money to put into business investment, but they never do that. They never do that. They never invest their own money. That's how Wall Street was created. They can go to Wall Street and use other people's money. So Trump truly believes in his mind that they will. So Trump, I think, is going to do whatever he can to rally the market, okay, especially the Qs, okay. You can see right here, we got lower highs. See the lower highs right here? You got to be prepared to short. You got to learn how to sell short, and we can teach you how to sell short, okay? Now, everything is back in filling right now, all these gaps. All these tourists ran in here and went nuts. Now they're all losing money, right? And the Europeans usually come in and they create another rally. But the Europeans are in here because, again, these tariffs are creating terrible inflation. The rates are too high, and they're better off staying in Europe and invest in European stocks. Now remember, they want a strong dollar. So they come over here, right, and buy stocks, but they have their euro. They want to go and switch to dollars, strong dollars, so they can buy stocks, but they're not doing that right now because of, again, the dollar is terrible. The dollar is weak. So they're not buying, nor are the institution players buying. The hedge funds aren't buying, the banks aren't buying, the insurance companies aren't buying, the 401ks aren't buying. The only people that's been buying this whole rally have been the tourists. So yes, we can get one big crash, no question. We can go down 50, 60%. But at the end of the day, right now, no one knows what is going to happen. You notice every day the market will open lower, and then all of a sudden it'll be down 500, then 400, and 300, and usually they bring it positive, right? Well, that's the plunger team who does that, okay? They go in and buy index futures to try to get that. If we open up, we're down 400 or down 300. By the time we close, they try to turn it positive, or maybe we're just down 100. They do that by doing index futures, okay? So again, the tech stocks are very, very important right now. And if you look at the tech stocks, this is where the tourists go, okay? They buy the tech stocks. And see how they're all back and filling right now, a lot of these tech stocks? They're all, see how they caught this gap up, chased it? That's why you never chase these stocks. You never chase these big gaps up, these big rallies. You got to be in them before they rally. Give you an example, okay? We were in, for example, NVIDIA right here, okay? We had a buy signal, went from red to green, and then we had a beautiful buy signal right here. So that's where we were. Everybody else was buying up here, but now they're losing money as it's back and filling. So you gotta be buying these stocks when you have the perfect setup, okay? And the setup is, remember, you gotta have it turning green while your stochastic's right on the bottom, just like that. Now you only will catch that pattern, okay, if you stay with just 6 stocks. And 90% of people lose money because they don't do this, okay? Because they don't have the patience to stay with 6 stocks. If you stay with 6 stocks and you wait for your buy signal to buy, you wait for your sell short signal to sell short. But if you don't know how to sell short, you're screwed, because you got to be out there listening to Kramer or somebody else trying to find that hot stock, and it's not there. When you have 6 stocks, you wait for your buy patterns, and then you wait for your sell short pattern. The only way you make money in the stock market is if you have the skill to sell short when the market's going down. If you don't have that skill, it's impossible to make money in the stock market by just buying stocks. Nobody is that good, number one. You got to be a hell of a trader just to buy, make a living buying stocks. No, when the market trend, money's coming in, we go long. When money's coming out, we go short. And then you take all the noise you hear from all these jibber jabbers and just put it out of your mind and just, again, stay with your 6 stocks and then wait until you get those signals. And that's what we do. The S&P has 4 different groups, okay? And it makes up, it's weighted about 70% of the S&P, these 4 different groups. And if you stay with the tech stocks, which is one of the groups, you stay with the banks, which is another group, and then the other group, of course, is your consumer discretionary and staples and healthcare. That's where the majority of all the big money goes, into those 4 sectors. So what we do is we pick out of all these sectors, we set up for our gang right here. Here's our 6 stocks right here. This is the 6, and the spiders. Now, the people who've been with us, okay, and who've learned how to sell short, this is our portfolio. We trade this portfolio, okay, for everybody. We tell them when to buy, when to add, when to sell, when to take money off, and when to run like hell. But they know how to sell short. That way, you never miss a buy signal, and you never miss a sell signal. There is no way you can make money unless you have, again, the skill to sell short as long and to go long. Because your 6 stocks, over those 12 months, you'll always be making money. The reason why 90% of people don't lose money, because they're running around like crazy trying to find some hot stock that somebody on TV talked about. It doesn't work that way. So the bottom line is this. Yes, Trump can take this market and he can rally it even more if he can talk them into cutting rates. If he can't do that, then the market's going to go down big. So we just have to wait and see. Join my gang, philsgang.com, free for 10 days.
You have been listening to Phil's Gang with your host, Phil Grande, on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Remember to visit Phil's website at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Or call the office, 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264.